Live out your car, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
Hey, what's happening? I know it's been a minute since I last recorded, but the iPhone has gone to the great recycling bin in the sky, and well, I'm using a cheap Android right now, so it is what it is. Like I don't really like bad quality things. I don't like low quality stuff, so I'm one of those people that, unfortunately, because of my perfectionism and whatnot, I just don't do things if it's not up to snuff, which then helps. I mean, not help. It prevents the growth because there are other people who just don't care. They're like, hey, I got a message, I got to get out, and I'm gonna use whatever I can, and it keeps them engaging with whoever watches their stuff. Unfortunately, it's a bad habit for me. It's something it's a work in progress, right? So, with all of that being said, I'm just going to talk in this video. If you're into that, cool. If you're not, but I'm just going to I'm just going to talk, right? No real editing or anything, because as you see, the topic of today is what the title is: depression. Because I've been increasingly depressed over the last 2 weeks. So, it's day 266 of me living out the car. Yes, I do live out the car. I don't just make this as a title and go off into some home or what. Now, no, I sleep in this bitch. I go to sleep literally just by doing this. What you see me doing right now. Yeah. I lay all the way back. And that's how I go to bed. Basically. Probably gonna cut this part out where I have to put this back up. That's how I go to sleep. If I'm starting to feel sweaty, I just turn the car on, put on the cold air, and probably throw my weighted blanket over me because it creates a nice bit of comfort. But this is my home, right? And when I originally started this, it was to get away from family, get away from just everything, really, because went to school for 5 years, came back, obviously I'll come back between breaks and whatnot, but went to school, came back, nothing had changed, and was on the verge of getting evicted again out of an extended stay, and it was just like, I can't do this shit no more. I can't try to pick people up and make plans like, I can show the way and nobody's listening. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna live out the car. Did that once we got evicted. January 10th, I'm like, I'm not going to a motel or anything. I'm not doing the motel life anymore. I'm not doing none of this shit. I'm going to live out of a car. I'm going to save my money. I'm going to pay all these fucked up ass bills that I have, especially the ones that, are my family's, like storage units that had all our stuff in there because they ended up having two. And it was like, I'm going to just pay all this stuff, get it all out the way, and eventually move my stuff out and blah, 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 blah. Had all these plans and it was working. I was working a lot though, but it was working. I was pulling about like $5,000 a month or back in November, December and everything, right? But that's not sustainable. I was only getting like 2-3 hours of sleep, honestly. There's quite a few times where I was just driving and then I would blink and I don't know where the last 3 seconds went. And I realized, if that 3 seconds turned into 6 or 9, I would have went 50 miles an hour into a fucking barrier. You know what I'm saying? This is too many times of that happening where I was like, I got to scale back because this is not conducive for my health. This is dangerous, right? So I eventually scaled back from that and everything. Cool. And things were still going and still working. But with this greedflation going and everything going on, and yes, it is greedflation. It's called by corporate greed, billionaire greed, and all this other type of stuff, right? And me scaling back from work and yada, yada, yada. Me thinking I had kind of created a lane for myself where I was still in the rat race of society, but also not really a part of it. Like I was in my own individual rat race. That slowly, those paths just merged back together. I found myself for the last 3 months increasingly with a negative bank account. My bank account was in the negative yesterday. It's not anymore. I don't have overdraft on it. I don't allow that shit. So the money that was going to go to an automatic bill back my account, and I'll be able to pay that by tomorrow. I still have some left, but it's like the days of having 1,500, 2,000, as a safety net in my bank account is going. And it's eating at me because I'm seeing everything like fail at once. Everything suck at once. And here's what I mean is like, I'm having my problems surviving and everything, right? And then I have friends who are also down in this type of life, who are basically struggling Americans. We come from families that failed us and tried to put our best foot forward, but nobody wanted to work together. So now we're just out trying to do it on our own. And, they are working hard. They're trying their best to advance in their jobs, like as mechanics or truckers and whatnot, blue collar. And it's not there. The money's not there. Can you imagine what it's like being a good mechanic and, your shop pulling in $10,000? No, let me take that back. Your shop pulling in $100,000 in 2 weeks, and you've made less than $1,200 because it's a corporate chain and corporate's taking pretty much all the money. Like, hearing that is like, it's crushing. Seeing people get out of, like, my pops got out of trucking because trucking was starting to pay less and less. People getting out of trucking or seeing truckers live into their cabs. It's depressing. The Walmarts, I'll sometimes go to crash. I crash in different spots for going to sleep. But some of those spots I'll go to and sleep at, and I'm seeing more homeless people. And one of my previous videos when I originally started this, I said that we have a problem looming because a lot of evictions are backlogged, but eventually it's going to become worse. The hidden homeless won't be as hidden anymore as they get evicted and have nowhere to go. They're going to be in plain sight. And I'm seeing it. Like, I'm seeing more people outside with suitcases and everything. I'm seeing more cars that are like in the dark with sunshades and everything else up, where for the average person, they might just think, oh, that's a car that broke down. But I see it, I'm like, no, somebody's living in there right now. Kind of like how I'm living in this vehicle. Like, I'm seeing more and more people living out their vehicles, trying to be conspicuous and everything, right? I'm having more issues. Last week, tire blows out. Before that, iPhone dies. It goes. Now, my camera, my baby, my bread and butter, my 5D Mark IV it just died. It's done. I've tried everything to fix it.
Hey, Future Sprague series, like 2 weeks later. Yeah, I've been stuck in work and survival mode. In fact, I made a video on that, but I didn't finish that one. But I digress. I'll probably speak on that in a future video. Anyways, I actually fixed the 5D Mark IV. It works now. For the most part, still got to send it in the Canon to fix a software glitch. But other than that, my baby works. I have a backup camera, which is not as bad as this backup phone, but I just wanted to put that out there. A little happier after the 2 weeks, somewhat. But back to the video.
It's more bills. It's just randomly more things are happening, but they're not affordable, or they're making things less affordable. It's just everything happening has got me down. And that's why I'm making this video and everything, because the influencers who make like a lot of van life videos and whatnot, I feel like it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's a lot of fluff, but they're not really, some of them are, but most of them aren't really talking about like what really happens. What really happens when you're just feeling down, but you have nowhere else to go. You have really nothing to do. You're like basically close to rock bottom, right? What about that stuff? Like the things that you see, how, the economy and everything else can affect your psyche. It's just it hasn't been good. It hasn't been a good 2 weeks at all. It had got to the point where one night I was just sitting in a parking lot and I'm seeing it was just a bunch of people at the Walmart helping each other out and everything. And I'm just looking at them. I'm watching other people talk to the trucks. Some go over, talk to the truckers and whatnot, who are also just chilling there. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on, man? Why is this like this? why am I here? What am I doing with my life? It was just having all those thoughts, and I did not sleep well that night at all. That night got so bad that I was like, I have a spare Four Loko from a party I'd went to like 3 weeks ago. How about you just, pop it open and drink it? And that's when it kind of dawned on me. It was like, man, this is how people who are homeless get into, drug addiction or alcohol dependency and everything. Like, obviously, I already knew this type of stuff, but it's one thing to know it, but it's one thing to then start having those thoughts creeping yourself. And I didn't do that. I didn't. But more and more I think about it, I'm just like, I could just drink and go to sleep. And those aren't good thoughts, because that one night of sleep because of drinking then easily become 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20. Next thing you know, you're now using it as a crutch and being dependent on it. This is like the reality of what things have been. And unfortunately, I just don't see it getting better. A lot of times when I would do things, no matter how things bad got, I always had like a plan. Like, I'm like Dutch from R2, from Red Dead Redemption 2. I got a plan, Arthur. But for once, I feel like I don't have a plan. For once, it's like, it feels like this wall cannot be climbed. Just too much. And that's one of the shittiest feelings there is. Yeah. It's like to the point, like, I don't even want to close this video on it being depressing and everything, but it's just like, damn, what can I do? What are we going to do? This is our society of those of us down here. What are we going to do? Because nobody gives a fuck about it. Meanwhile, you have people with 6 figures talking about how they feel poor. Feel poor. I have a friend who shared that on Instagram because he makes 6 figures. And he reposted that, an article with some quotes from people who were making 6 figures saying they feel poor. And then me and him, I just straight told him, I was like, the difference between them and like your peers, because some of his peers actually felt the same way. He was saying is like, y'all can't do the luxurious things you want to do. You feel poor because you can't do what you want. We are poor because sometimes we can't afford what we fucking need. There's a major difference. It's not the same. Even with how expensive things have gotten, I'm like, if you guys have to take going from luxurious dinners every weekend to every 2 weeks or even a month, you're not poor. Not even close. It's not having the ability to take a vacation because you're stuck in work mode, and you're stuck in work mode because you're trying to survive, and every time you want to take a day off or something, the back of your mind, you're calculating the hour of you doing that leisure thing is in money that could have went towards a bill. That's when you kind of know that you're poor. That's stuff that's not really going on in your head. Like, I went on a date recently and it was like $50. We split it. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, this 4 hours I could have been doing something productive where, I could have made like 60 to $100. I kind of need that money right now. Like, that type of stuff. It's not fun. It's not. And wrapping this up, I just wanted to make this video to show like the other side of the coin, right? Or express the other side of the coin, because it's not all glitz and glamour. It's not all, man, I feel free. Like, I feel like I escaped the matrix. Sometimes you're going through moments like I am right now, which people don't really address. People don't really speak about. They don't really talk about is what I feel like. There's always the shine. It's always the the gold plate. I can't even talk. The gold painted turd in ways. It's like lying to people, and more and more people were like talking about doing this type of stuff. I posted finally started posting on TikTok, and when I addressed myself, like, and what I was going through, that shit blew up and it had like 30,000 views, and so many people were commenting of them going through the same stuff, about to be homeless for 10 years, homeless for 5 years, living on a car for 12 years, you know. And when you see all those comments of people with a shared experience, it isn't the greatest feeling. Like, part of it was cool because, like, everybody, I was like a vehicle, right, for people to share their story. And that's dope. But at the same time, having like a face and words behind what formerly was statistics, it didn't sit well. Not at all. But that's the video, you know. Not trying to end on a depressing note, but it is what it is. And I will hopefully see you on the next one, and it'll have, you know, hopefully it'll be the ones that I recorded before that are edited and narrated and everything.